So this is going to be my first video for Visual Basic .NET. As you'll notice here on the screen, it's Visual Basic 2010 Express. This can be found on the internet as a free download from Microsoft. I have installed it and I ran the program, and this is the startup screen. On the startup screen, you get essentially two options. One is to make a brand new project, and the other one is to open an existing project. Those are the two important things. Recent projects, if you've worked on them, will be shown in this list below. I'm going to go ahead and click on the new project window, or button, I guess. It opens up this new project dialog box, and essentially we're going to be working with Windows Forms applications all the time. We're just going to go clean and simple here at the beginning. And so I'm going to click that, but before I click this, I want to notice down here at the bottom you can name your projects, and so I'm going to call this my first VB project. Just keep track of what I'm working on. So I've got the Windows Form application. I've given it a name down here in the name dialog box at the bottom, and I'm going to click the OK button. So my computer's buzzing away here creating this brand new project, and there's a whole bunch of files that get set up on your computer. Now this screen is the first screen we'll come to once we create our new project, and I'm just going to talk real quickly about a number of the things we see. Over here on the left hand side is a toolbox of all kinds of goodies we can use. In other words, we've got buttons over here, we've got list boxes and labels and text boxes and so on and so forth, picture boxes. And we're going to build our program by using a variety of these widgets here, these Windows controls. This panel you see in the middle is where we actually have our window. This is our first program window. We can have multiple program windows. And we're going to put buttons and text boxes and things on our window. And over at the far right, we have two other panels. We have the Solution Explorer panel, and you'll notice the Solution Explorer panel holds a project document, and the form itself that we see here in the middle panel is part of my project. And then down below we have the properties of whatever's currently selected in our middle panel here. So you'll notice right now it says that Form 1 is the currently selected item, and there are a variety of options here for Form 1. I'm going to just take a button and I'm going to just drag it over and drop it right in the middle of my form, and just drag that button from the toolbox into the middle of my form. So there's a button, and you'll notice that now that button has the selection handles around it. Well, the button is showing over here now in the properties window because the button is selected, and so the button is reflected over in the properties. And if we scroll up to the very top, we'll see the list of properties of this button. Very beginning up here, notice the name property, it just says button 1. And one of the more important properties that we'll use a lot, if we scroll all the way down to the text property, and that's where it was when it first started, the text property is also called button 1. And so I can change what we see on that button, and I'll just type in press me and hit enter, and you'll notice that the text property is the kind of the visible text of a button. So the output window down here, sometimes we'll see errors and different things like that. We can actually close that most of the time. There's nothing too new here. Let's just take a look quickly at the menu bar at the top. This menu bar is a pretty short menu bar. There's one item on the menu bar, of course, that I want to pay particular attention to, and this is the Start button. You can hit F5 on your keyboard for this, but you can also just hit the little green arrow, and that will start your program and run it. And then right next to that is a stop button. So if your program is running, you can hit that stop button to stop your program. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to real quickly put another widget here, a little control. I'm going to put a text box control onto the form just by taking over here from the toolbox on the left. I'm going to take that text box and I'm just going to drag it over. I'm just going to drop it on the form here just below my button. And you'll notice that there is a text property. If we go over to the properties dialog box, you'll notice that the text box is now the current item showing in the properties, not dialog box, but the properties panel here. And I can click there, and there's no text in the text box yet. See, that's just empty. I could type text maybe in this text box here. Well, actually, no, it's not. I just double click the text box, and I really didn't want to do that. But I wanted you to notice that when you double click one of the controls, it opens up a code window. So you'll notice now up here at the top it says form1.vb and then it says form1.vb design. Well, the design window is where we drag and drop our controls. So you see there's the design window. And then the form1.vb window is where the code for your program is. Now I'm gonna take a quick little side tour. I'm gonna change the size of this font a bit. So I'm gonna go to Tools, Options, and I'm gonna go to General. Let's see, is that where I want to go? It doesn't look like it. Oh, text editor. Here's a text editor. Let's see if I can find it here. I'm not making much headway. General text editor, basic. Okay, general, VB specific. I'm not finding where to change that. Oh, fonts and colors. There we go. So it was under environment, fonts and colors. Let's see, I'll change that to about, let's say 14 point. Oh yeah, that looks better. Click OK. And yeah, that's much better. We can see that. Well, anyway, this is our code window. Now, by double clicking on that text box, it did open up and it inserted this little piece of code right here. Now, I don't really want that little piece of code, so that was more of a screw up on my part. And this kind of thing happens a lot where you'll double click on something and it'll open up a little code stub for you and you don't want it. So I'm just going to select it and I'm just going to delete that. So now that's gone. But you'll see here, I still have this container here related to the form. So all the code I'm going to add with my little Windows controls, like my buttons and whatnot, it's going to go inside this public class form1. So let's go back to our design view. I'll click the tab here at the top of my window. And I've got this text box. It's called text box 1, and I've got this button, and it's called button 1. And I'm just going to leave that alone for now. But now I'm going to double click on the button. So I'll just double click on the button. And it opens up a little piece of code, a little code stub for the button. You can see that here. I've got that highlighted there in blue. And it says that this is button 1 click. Now this little piece of code runs off the screen quite a way. So I'm going to try to make a little bit more room here on the screen, see if we can see the rest of that. I'm just resizing my windows. It still runs off the screen, so I'm going to just go ahead and drag that over. You'll notice what it says. It says the button 1 click code handles button 1 click. So what that means is when somebody clicks on that button, this piece of code is going to handle that. It's going to take care of that click. So we're going to put something very simple in this little piece of code. We're going to refer to our text box. And so I'm going to start typing. I'm going to type TEXT. And you notice as I type, it pops up a list here of items that might match that text I've typed. And there's my text box 1. You see that in the list that popped up? Well, I'm just going to double click that. So it just says text box 1. And I'm going to type a dot, the period. I'm going to hit the period key. So I hit period, and what it does is it's going to show me the various properties of text box 1. Now this is very similar to what we see over here in the properties window for a text box if I have it selected on the screen. But you'll notice that there's the text property. So there's the text property of text box 1. So I'll just double click that. Now I want to put something into that text property, so I'm going to use the assignment operation. And the assignment operation, you use the equals symbol. It does not mean equality. We're talking about assignment here. And I'm just going to go ahead and then type a string. And a string is always double quoted in Visual Basic, so I hit the quotation mark there. It's a double quote, and I'm going to just type in the classic hello world and end the quote. So that's a literal string where I started the quote and then I have to remember to hit the end quote to close it. So now what I'm saying is I'm going to say, take this string hello world and put it into that text property of text box 1. Now that's only going to happen when I click on button 1. Notice, the handler for button 1 there. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll go back to my design view. I don't have to go back to my design view, but I want to just take a look at that. So here's my button. I'm going to click that when I run it, and then there's my text box, and it should put some text into that text box that says hello world. So I'm going to hit the go button. So I hit go. And there's my program. Now my program is running, and this is an actual Windows application now that's running. I could actually minimize all my other programs, but you'll notice it's over here on my taskbar. There's actually a program running on the taskbar. And I'll hit the press me button. And when I hit press me, it should put the text in my text box, right? Okay, let's test and see if it does. So click down on that, and there's the hello world in my text box, and it worked exactly like we would have expected. So I'm going to go up here to my menu bar here in Visual Basic, and I'm going to hit the little stop button. I could hit the red close button here on the window, but I'm just going to hit that little stop button, and it stopped my program, and I'm back in Visual Basic. So I'm going to go ahead and just stop this, and we'll come back and do another video following this one. But this is just getting a program running, getting it going in Visual Basic, and a quick tour of some of the things we see on the screen. Okay.